Hello guys and welcome to today's session. Today we are going to study about Windows Autopilot. Okay, alright then, let's just get started. First, let's just take a look over today's agenda, as in what we are going to accomplish in today's session. So we are going to start with why do we need Windows Autopilot, and then we are going to establish what is Windows Autopilot and what it is not. There is some misconception with what Windows Autopilot can do and what it can't do, so I want to lay that demarcation clearly, that what we can achieve using Windows Autopilot and what we can't, so that we exactly know when to use it and when not. Then we'll be taking a look over its prerequisite, as in what needs to be there from setup point of view to make sure that we are able to implement this solution from Microsoft. Then we'll take a look over how to do it. Then the flow, as in right from the point wherein a user is unboxing a fresh device, or maybe we are doing a reset of an existing device, to the point wherein the device gets enrolled to Intune or any other MDM and gets all the policies and applications provisioned. We will be taking a look over the entire flow. Okay. Then we will look at common caveats, like what can go wrong with the flow at any point of time during the life cycle of an autopilot. What can possibly go wrong, and if anything is going wrong, then how to determine that and how to fix that. So we'll be taking a look at that. Then we will be taking a look at the life cycle of a device and where exactly Autopilot fits into that life cycle. Then we'll be taking a look over some new features that have been introduced in Autopilot, some new features which are supported in Windows 10 18.03 build. Some of them are supported in Windows 10 18.09 build and above. So we'll be taking a look onto what are the new things that have been incorporated into Windows Autopilot. Then we'll be taking a look over the profile types. There are two kinds of profiles that can be provisioned via Autopilot. We'll be taking a look over them. We'll be taking a look over how they can be configured, what are the difference between the two, and when to use either of them. Then we'll be taking a look over how to configure a Windows Autopilot profile from the portal. So there are a couple of portals that can be made use of. We'll be taking a look over all the portals, and we'll be saying how to deploy a Windows Autopilot profile successfully. Once it has been deployed, we'll be taking a look over the logs and the registry from the end machine to establish whether the Autopilot profile successfully reached the device or not, and if it did, then how exactly can we substantiate that. And at the end, most importantly, I will be doing a live demo wherein I will be going to the portal, uploading the device, making a profile, deploying that profile to a device, and then showing you the out-of-the-box experience of the device, as in what exactly the experience the end user would have, and how exactly would it look to the end user. So I'll be doing an end-to-end demo in this, and yeah, I hope that would clear our confusion. So okay guys, let's just get started. So let's just start with why exactly do we need Autopilot. I mean, there has to be some sense behind making use of this product, right? So guys, I've always wondered, I feel that there is always something magical about opening a new box, getting the computer or a laptop out of it, powering it on, and the device, the laptop or the computer, knowing who I am, and then the laptop magically itself gets into the business ready state. This exactly is what Autopilot lets us achieve. We just need to get the device out of the box, just power it on, in some cases enter our credentials, in some cases we might not even have to enter our credentials. The device in itself gets configured and gets business ready. So the device has each and everything from corporate or from business point of view that I might need to access the resources, and we are just ready on the go, ready on the fly. So there is no IT intervention required. We don't need to ship the devices first to the IT and then to the users. So this is exactly the concept behind using the Autopilot deployment. So what Autopilot does is it brings Windows 10, Azure, Intune, and Microsoft Office into a seamless, cohesive experience. It, in a way, truly embodies the essence of MS365. It's making the device a smart device. The device knows who we are, and the device magically configures itself. We'll take a look about how exactly that configuration happens, but this is exactly why we are using Autopilot. So let's just recap and let's just rewind 10 years back. 10 years back, what we had to do was we used to get a device, we used to purchase the device from the vendor, which used to come with an inbuilt image, and then we used to re-image that device using a golden image, which used to have the apps and the drivers and the firmwares and whatnot. Obviously, that was time consuming. In the past, it was very difficult for IT to deploy machines because, well, the machine had an OS in itself, on the bare metal, but there was a lot of cost and time involved behind making that golden image and deploying that golden image. So obviously it's not the best option out there. Autopilot, in a way and to a large extent, is a replacement for that. What Autopilot does is it helps us in provisioning new machines as well as provisioning the old machines if we want to re-provision it without the hassle. So what Autopilot does is it actually provides us new capabilities to the zero-touch experience for deployment of new devices. I mean, a new device is shipped to the user. All the user is doing is just powering it on, that is just pressing the power button and entering his user credentials. Other than that, no interaction needs to be, no steps needs to be followed by the user. Everything is happening seamlessly over the cloud, and the user's experience is zero touch. That is the main aim behind using Autopilot, and that is the main aim behind deployment of Autopilot. So using Autopilot, what we do is we almost minimize the cost incurred in re-imaging of devices. So obviously, if there is no image that we are making and no image that we are deploying, then that cost is gone. So with Autopilot, it is easy because, well, there is nothing much to be done. And once you deploy it from the portal, once the policies have been made, all the devices get that policy depending upon the assignment. So that is why it is very convenient, and it's a good deployment technique. Also, in Autopilot feature, we associate a device with a user. So once we do that, not only the device and not only the out-of-the-box experience of the user is customized, but also the user gets all the company policies that have been provisioned to him. So all the compliance policy that have been provisioned to the user, all the configuration policy, all the apps, whatever have been provisioned to the user by the admin will be implemented onto that device. So using Autopilot, we can Azure AD join the device and enroll the device, or we can do something like an hybrid Azure AD joint, wherein the device will be joined to the local domain as well as the device will be joined to the cloud, the Azure AD, and that is something which obviously will happen out of the box. So therefore, nothing needs to be done by the user. So the way this happens is the user powers on the device, the user enters his credentials, and now with the new release, with the release of 1803 and above of Windows, we have a possibility of making use of something called enrollment status page, about which we will see later, which gives us the ability to block the device in a state of limbo until the device is fully business prepared. Meaning that until and unless all the applications and all the policies that have been delivered to the device are actually implemented, all the applications are installed, the user will be able to track the installation, but he will not be able to go to the desktop and start using it. Meaning unless and until his device is business ready, he will not be able to make use of the device. So I mean, these are the advantages of this is actually why we are using Autopilot. I mean, this is what Autopilot helps us achieve. So and most importantly, why we are using this is it is helping us achieve the zero touch experience, and it is helping us to make the experience just magical, because all the end user is doing is just powering on the device and nothing else. And I'll exactly show it to you guys in the demo how that is happening. So as I said, Autopilot embodies Azure Active Directory, it embodies Intune, it embodies app installation, because during the installation, during the out-of-the-box experience, I mean after the out-of-the-box experience, all the applications that have been provisioned to the user are going to get installed on the device, and the Windows device is obviously going to get activated. Now that we know that why we need Autopilot, let's just now try and figure out what exactly is Autopilot. Okay, so in 2 words, Autopilot is modern management. Autopilot is a collection of technologies that is used to set up and pre-configure new devices and get them ready for productive use, getting the devices in business ready state. So as I said, Autopilot brings the EMS suite, the Azure AD, the MS Office suite, and Windows 10 into a single cohesive experience. So it's all unified, and it simplifies the device setup for the admin. So Windows Autopilot in nutshell is a mechanism to simplify the out-of-the-box experience of the users. It's a cloud-based service that Microsoft provides for its IT for hands-free zero-touch deployment of Windows 10 devices. And the goal, the main aim of using Autopilot is to make the experience with device magical for the end users by making it almost zero touch. Only a power on, a push of the button is needed, and in some cases the user needs to enter the credentials, and that's it. The device is going to be business ready. One of the things wherein Autopilot, the support of Autopilot is extended, is bringing the zero touch experience with the device reset scenarios. Meaning that not only in case of a fresh device which the hardware vendor has shipped to us, the Autopilot profile can be applied, and we can leverage Autopilot and experience the zero touch experience, but also in case of already existing devices. If we do a device reset of an existing Autopilot device, that device will also give us the same out-of-the-box experience, which is zero touch. So this is in a nutshell what exactly Autopilot is. But before we actually move ahead, I would like to clarify one doubt. We wouldn't exactly know what Autopilot is without actually knowing what Autopilot is not. So Autopilot is not equal to the OSD via SCCM or MDT. So in SCCM, we have the ability of deploying images, and that image is, I mean, let's just say that we have a Windows 10 machine and we want to re-image it. So we have a provision in SCCM to deploy a OSD, and that OSD is used to image the device. This is, but the difference is in that case, we are actually deploying an image. In this case, the whole idea and the whole concept of using autopilot is that there should be no imaging needed. That is what we are trying to cut. What we are trying to achieve using autopilot is making the end user's experience zero touch and saving the cost and the time behind building an image. So we are not building any image in autopilot. We are customizing the out of the box experience of the user, and after that experience is customized, we are deploying the apps, we are deploying the configuration policies, the compliance policy, and we are bringing the device to business ready. So using autopilot, we cannot deploy an operating system. The operating system needs to be there on the device, and autopilot takes care of the customization. Okay. All right. Now let's just take a look over the prerequisite, as in what needs to be there on the device for us to make use of autopilot. The first thing that needs to be there is that the device needs to be installed with a genuine version of Windows 10, 1703 or later. So if the device is running with, let's just say 1607 or any earlier version of Windows, then autopilot cannot be provisioned and made use of. The user needs to have, the device can run with any version of Windows 10, 1703. It can be professional, enterprise, education, any version. Okay. All right. As far as licensing is concerned, the user needs to have AAD P1 license, just like what a user would normally have if he's trying to leverage conditional access. Okay. So what happens in autopilot is once the device goes through the out of the box experience, at one stage the device gets Azure AD registered and then enrolled to the MDM. In this case, we are talking about Intune, therefore the device gets enrolled to Intune. For that to happen, we will have to enable the auto enrollment feature in the Azure AD Blade. So only if this is enabled, the device is going to get enrolled to Intune. So this is one of the prerequisites. All the device needs is a genuine version of Windows 10, 1703 or later, and access to internet. So from device end, there are only two requirements. The device needs to have access to internet, and that's how it's going to talk to the cloud, and then fetch the policies and get the device onto a business ready state. From the portal end, well, license should be assigned, auto enrollment should be enabled, and the user should be allowed to join devices to the Azure AD. The devices must be registered to the organization. How that is done, I'm going to show it to you during the demo, how exactly we import the device to the organization's tenant. Company branding needs to be configured. That's the way we are going to actually see and find out during the out of the box experience, whether it's just going through a normal out of the box experience or whether it's going through an customized out of the box experience, which is provisioned to the device via autopilot. And in our case, we need a MDM, that is Intune. Okay, so these are a few basic prerequisites. Other than this, from networking point of view, these are the websites which needs to be accessible from the device. So, I mean, these are typically the websites that a device would need access to if the device is, if we are trying to enroll a device to Intune. So yeah, we just need to make sure that nothing is blocked in the firewall, or we are not behind any proxy which is blocking this. So if you are getting a fresh device and if you are in the open internet, then this shouldn't be an issue. Okay. All right. Now let's just talk about, now we know what is autopilot and why we need it. Now let's just talk about how to provision it. So there are three ways by which we can make use of Windows Autopilot. The first way, which I'm going to show, well, I'll try and make sure that I show all the three ways. One of the ways onto which we are concentrated at during this session is deployment of autopilot and configuration of autopilot from Microsoft Intune. It can be any MDM that you're using. In this case, we are deploying it from Microsoft Intune. The second place from wherein Autopilot profile can be deployed is Microsoft Store for Business. We'll be taking a look over this and we'll be seeing how exactly the configuration is done. And it can also be provisioned from O365 admin portal. Okay, but we will try and concentrate on this part, deployment of Autopilot from Microsoft Intune. Okay, so now let's just talk about the flow. What exactly happens? The first thing that happens is that the device by the hardware vendor is shipped directly to the user. I mean, gone are the days wherein a device was first sent to the IT. The IT used to maintain an inventory of the devices, and then the IT had to plug in the USB cable and image the devices. Gone are those days. Now the hardware vendor is, going to deploy the device directly to the home address of the end user. So it's just like Amazon or FedEx delivering your laptop directly to your home. Once the device is shipped without any intervention, what the hardware vendor can do is that the hardware vendor can upload the serial number of the devices to the portal, or the hardware vendor can provide a CSV containing the serial number of those devices to the IT admin. The IT admin would be uploading the serial number of those devices. So the IT admin would take that CSV from the hardware vendor, and he would upload that CSV onto the Azure portal, and he will be uploading the serial number of the devices. Now Azure is aware of which devices are associated with your tenant, and the deployment profile is going to get delivered to the end user whenever the end user just powers on the device. So whenever you power on the device is going to connect to the internet, and the device is going to understand that this is an Autopilot device, and it's going to fetch that profile. Okay, so now let's just take a look over the flow, exactly what happens step by step. So the device is shipped directly to the user. No IT intervention. The end user is going to power on the device. Once he powers on the device, there are some things which he has to mandatorily select, which we cannot customize. Like, it's going to ask him the language, which language is his preferred, which he would like to be displayed on the screen, which region he is from, and what format of keyboard he would like to use. So that is something which he has to select. Once he has selected that, then the device is going to check whether the device is connected to the internet or not. So if there is a LAN cable, if there is an Ethernet cable that is attached to the device won't ask you that option. If there is not, then it's going to go through all the SSIDs the device can find, and it's going to ask the end user to make a selection of the Wi-Fi the device would like to connect to. Once the device is connected, now actually the magic happens. Now the device realizes. How exactly it realizes, I'll show it to you. I'll describe that later on. But now the device is going to realize that it is an Autopilot device, and it is going to show a custom branding page which we have configured in the Azure AD. It will ask us for our credentials, our username and password. It's going to show our organization name in the customer branding page, just like we have configured it. Then the device is going to get Azure AD registered. Once the Azure AD registration is done, the device is going to be enrolled to Intune or whichever MDM we are using. Once the device is enrolled to Intune, all the device configuration policy that have been assigned to the user is going to flow to the device. All the applications that have been assigned to the user is going to flow to the device, and the device is going to be stuck over there in a state of limbo, just showing the progress until the device gets all the configuration and the applications and the compliance policy, meaning that the user will not be able to proceed if unless and until the device is business ready. So now let's just pause a moment and talk about what we can actually customize as far as out-of-the-box experience is concerned from Autopilot, and what we cannot customize. So what we cannot customize is these three things. So we do not have an option of customizing these three things. First is the language, second is the location, and third is the keyboard format. So these three selections are something which the user has to make. If we are deploying a user-driven profile, we'll take a look over what user-driven profile is later on. But these are three selections that the user has to make. What we can customize is the end user license agreement, the privacy settings, use of computer template, skipping the Cortana, automatic setup of work or school, and the sign-in experience with company branding. So if we wish to display the end user license agreement to the users, it would be displayed. If we don't want to display it, it won't be displayed. It is depending upon what kind of profile has been made and what we have selected on that profile. So if we want to skip the Cortana, or if we want that whenever the user is prompted for username and password, the username should be pre-populated or something like that, or the name of the device should follow a specific template, we can do all that. What we can't do is these three things. It is something which is there usually in the out-of-the-box experience, and it's going to be there in case of normal deployment as well. So that is typically what we can and we cannot do during deployment of an Autopilot profile. Okay, so as far as out-of-the-box experience is concerned, I have got two screenshots here. One is with Autopilot and one is without Autopilot. I think I made a mistake here. Now it's better. Okay, sorry for that, guys. So this is without Autopilot and this is with Autopilot. When we are just powering on a device which has no Autopilot profile assigned to it, it's going to show those three screens, obviously, the language, the location, the keyboard, and by default it's going to show you the end user license agreement and the privacy settings and Cortana. Once that is done, it is going to ask us whether what exactly we want to use, the credentials that we want to use. Right at this page, it is asking us whether we want to do a work or school workplace join or not, as in whether we want to register this device to Azure AD or not. Whatever credential we enter over here needs to be there in the cloud or needs to be synced with the cloud. But over here, we have an option saying domain join instead. So if the device is just going through a normal out-of-the-box experience and we are not making use of Autopilot, we have got nothing to do with the cloud environment, then what we would be typically doing is we would be clicking over here, domain join instead, and then we will be entering our username. We will be creating a default local admin. We will be entering the password, answering few security questions, and then we will be at the desktop. After that, we can join the device to the domain. However, if the device is an Autopilot device, then let's just look at the difference. This is the out-of-the-box experience for an Autopilot device. So the device has reached out to the internet, to the Autopilot service, and has realized that it's an Autopilot device. Therefore, one of the prerequisites of, or one of the outcomes of deploying an Autopilot device is that the device is either going to be Azure AD joined or hybrid Azure AD joined. Therefore, it does not give us that option of joining the device to a domain. You will have to log in over here using your cloud creds and needing a EMS license, because in this case we are going to enroll the device as well, and the device is going to get enrolled to Intune later on. Also, another difference that we can see on a autopilot device as compared to a non-autopilot device is the company branding. So when I do in company branding, what I can do is just to make sure, just for the end users to actually find out and experience that, okay, they are getting the devices joined to a specific organization. We can put in the name of the organization, and we can put in a custom image as well as some message. So this is something which is an indicator to the end user, showing that it is not going through a normal autopilot deployment, a normal OOB experience, but an autopilot deployment which has been customized. So the so the logo of the company can be there, the name of the company can be there, a custom message can be there, which is all an indicator that yes, autopilot profile has been deployed to the device and the device is making use of that. Okay. Now let's just take a look over what can possibly go wrong during these stages. So what can go wrong and how to identify that and how to fix that. So let's just say that we power on the device and there is no out of the box experience page. So we are not able to see anything. We are not able to see anything that we would normally see during the standard out of the box experience. None of the out of the box experience screen. If that is the case, then there are normally two possibilities. First, that there is something wrong with the OS image that is being used, or an unexpected XML is being used, or we powered on the device some time back and the out of the box experience was partially completed and the device was then restarted. In that case, if it's either of this case, if it's either or any of these use cases, then I would suggest that just take a pause, start from scratch again with a good image, an image that is showing you the out of the box experience, or if it's the latter one, then complete the out of the box experience the rest of the way. Whatever screens you are getting, just complete that. Go to the desktop, create a local account, and then reset the OS. So once you go to the desktop, reset it, it's going to go through the whole flow again. And in this time, if as you are going to do it from the beginning, it is going to show you the out of the box experience. So only two reasons why you could not be seeing the out of the box experience: if you're using a custom image, in which case you might have to reimage the device, or you halfway completed the out of the box experience, in which case you'll have to complete the whole process and do a system reset, upon which the profile will be deployed again and the user will be functional. Now, not connected to a network. You might get this error message, and there can be a few reasons behind this. One of the things that I have experienced is proxy servers. So if the device is not directly on the open internet, if there are proxy servers behind which the device is present, then proxy servers can cause challenge if they are not automatically discoverable, or if the device requires any form of user authentication to connect to the network. Because mind you, at this point of time, the user is not logged in. All the user has done is he has just powered on the device and the device has connected to the internet. And if the device is not able to connect to the internet, then obviously one of the things that could have interfered is there is a user authentication that is needed. Also, wireless network that require certificates for authentication, they also would not be working in this case because there are no certificates that are present in the device. Firewalls might make Windows think that there isn't a path to the internet, therefore we need to make sure that firewall is not interfering. And yeah, so if that's the case, then probably we might just want to check that yes, device is connected, device is plugged with the Ethernet cable or the wireless network. So just a prerequisite. Okay, all right, so now that is taken care of, once we proceed, we should be able to see the custom branding page. When I say custom branding page, I am talking about this page. So the page wherein we are able to see the name of the organization, the logo, the custom message, all that. So if the customer branding is not visible, then probably it is not set up. If the customer branding has been set up in the tenant, it should be visible. So I would suggest that please go and set that up in your tenant, because that's the way the end user can actually make sure that yes, he is on the right path. He is connected to he is getting connected and redirected to the correct organizational page. Okay, all right. So once that happens, once he is there at the customer branding page, once he's over here and once he enters his username and password, he might get an error something like this. He might get an error like 801C0003. If you're getting this error, please make sure that the user is able to join the device to the Azure AD. So at this point of time, what is happening is Azure AD registration and the device is getting joined to the Azure AD. So if the end user does not have the ability or the functionality to join the device to the Azure, he is going to get a message something like this. So we need to make sure that the user has the permissions and the user has not reached the maximum number of devices that he can possibly join. So meaning there is no device restriction. So in the Intune portal, we have something called device restriction, wherein we can restrict a user. That is, a user should not be able to enroll more than 15 devices, or user should not be able to enroll a normal Android device, but should be able to enroll a Android for work device. Over there, we have the ability of blocking or allowing Windows devices as well. So in that is also something which we need to check if we are getting an error typical to this ending with 0003. Let's just say that the device got Azure AD registered, the device got joined to the Azure AD, but after that we got an error message something like 801.8.0.18. So this, once the Azure AD registration, this is for Azure AD registration. So this is AAD, and the below one is for MDM. In our case, it is Intune. So if we are getting an error like this, like 801.8.0.0.18, then probably there is something wrong with user's ability to normally enroll a device. So we need to make sure that the prereqs are in place. We need to make sure that automatic MDM enrollment is enabled. We need to make sure that if it is not enabled to all, but if it is enabled to some, then whether the user is a part of that some group or not. If MAM and MDM both are all, if MAM and MDM both scopes are all, then just an FYI guys, MAM takes precedence over MDM. Therefore, we need to make sure that both are not set to all. And we need to make sure that user has an Azure AD premium license and P1 or P2. Obviously, the user needs to have an EMS license, EMS E3 or E5. And we need to make sure that the user is not reached the device limit, the maximum limit, which there can be, which can be used, which the user has the ability of enrolling to Intune. So that is something which we need to see if we are getting an error typically like this. And lastly, once this has happened, let's just say that power on happened, the device got connected to the internet, customer branding page was there, he was able to Azure AD register the device, he was able to enroll the device, then what is going to happen is the applications that have been provisioned to the user are going to get installed on the device. So if at any point of time the app installation fails, then the user has blocked the screen on a state of limbo, then it won't proceed. Then it might prompt you to restart, to retry. That's the only option out there. And if that is the case, then we'll probably have to there can be many reasons behind that. Let's just say that the application that have been deployed to the user is MS Office, and we have blocked the device for we have blocked the device, and the timeout which we have given is 30 minutes. So what it means is, if the installation does not happen in 30 minutes, then the app installation is going to get failed. So we need to make sure that we give specific time, we specify specific time and appropriate time in the portal, in the policy, and make sure that that amount of time is sufficient for all the applications which are provisioned to the user to get installed. Like, it might take more than 30 minutes for MS Office and some LOB apps to get installed on the device. And if we have set it to 30 minutes, and if the device is on a state of limbo, then after post 30 minutes, it's just going to error out because the app installation has not finished by then. Okay, so that is something which we can make use of. We also have to, I mean, if the app installation is failing, we just have to make sure, also might want to make sure that if we are deploying an Office suite, then the end user has a license for the Office suite. Or if we are deploying an MSI or an EXE, well, now we can deploy EXEs as well from Intune using a Win32 app. So I mean, if we are deploying any LOB app, in that case we need to make sure that the app is compatible with the version of the device. If the app is not compatible, then the Autopilot profile is going to try and deploy the app and install it, and if the installation is going to fail, then it's going to typically give you this error. Now let's just talk about the life cycle flow, as in the life cycle flow of a device, not of Autopilot, of a device. So the device lifecycle flow is something like this. The vendor, as I said, the vendor automatically can register the device, or the IT can get that CSV file and register it. Then the IT needs to customize the out-of-the-box experience of the user. The device is directly delivered by the vendor to the end user. So we are bypassing the IT over here. No IT intervention required. The user just powers on the device, and the device gets onto a business steady state. Okay, this is going to be the flow. So over here, this is just a diagrammatic view of the same. The hardware vendor is directly shipping the device to the end user. So FedEx is delivering it directly to you and not to the IT. And then the hardware vendor is giving the device IDs to the Superman, that is to the IT admin. The IT admin is uploading the device ID to the portal, and he is uploading when I say uploading, he is making a provisioning, I mean, he's making Autopilot profile, whereas he is customizing the out-of-the-box experience. This is for new device. If there is an existing set of devices, then he is getting the relevant information. When I say relevant information, I mean the hardware IDs of the devices from those existing device, and he is going to upload that also to the portal. Once that has been deployed, whenever the end user powers on the device is going to connect to the internet, and it is going to fetch all the policies that has been provisioned to the device. This is typically how exactly the flow of a device and an Autopilot profile would be. So Autopilot now actually spans everywhere. As you can see, during the deployment phase, Autopilot was there. During the acquiring, I mean, if you're acquiring the device, still it's there. During the deployment, it's there. And during the reset of a device also, it's there. So Autopilot is now, spanning everywhere, right? Okay, so it's just a diagrammatic view again, that the end user acquires the device directly from the hardware vendor, and even if via Autopilot we can deploy a device, and if it's even a reset scenario, in all of the cases Autopilot is going to deliver a zero touch experience to the end users. Now let's just talk about this important slide, and I would like to spend a little more time in explaining what are the new features in Windows Autopilot. The first setting which I would like to talk about is the enrollment status page, and this is very important, and this is something which we all should know. First of all, this enrollment status page is not an Autopilot feature, but it is something that can be used in conjunction with Autopilot profile. So even if we are not deploying an Autopilot profile, if a device is getting enrolled to Intune, still it will be able to go through the enrollment status page. But this is something which can be provisioned also in a Autopilot device during its out-of-the-box experience. Therefore, I wanted to mention it. First of all, this enrollment status page is something which is applicable on 18.03 plus version of Windows. That's something which we need to keep in mind. What it does is, when the device is going through the out-of-the-box experience, so let's just go back here in the workflow and over here. So the device has been shipped, powered on, this has been selected, connected to the network, Azure AD credentials have been provided, device is enrolled to Intune. During this phase, when the device is getting the configuration policy and the app deployment, and at this point of time, the device does not have everything that the admin deems necessary that the device should have. It does not have the application, it does not have the profiles, it does not have the certificates. The device is not compliant and is not business ready. So using this enrollment status page, what we can do is we can block the device in a state of limbo, meaning it's not like it's just going to get stuck on a screen. It is actually very visual, and it shows the end user what exactly is happening in the device, what exactly is the flow, and what has been installed, what is pending. But it does not let the user go directly to the desktop, skip the page unless and until the admin has provisioned it that way. It does not let the user skip that page and start making use of that device, because he doesn't have the applications and the device is not business ready. So it is enrollment status page is something which has been introduced recently, and it's very cool. I mean, the device is not going to make the user make use of it unless and until the device is actually ready. Another thing which is out there is that the vendors have the option of automatically registering the device to the portal. So or the vendors can provide a CSV, and what we can do is we can make a group. So what happens is, let's just say that this is the cloud, this is Azure, and on the cloud we are importing a CSV file. Okay, so the hardware vendor or the IT admin is importing .csv. That CSV file has some information like the hardware hash and the product key and some other information with it in itself. So when a device is uploaded onto the Azure portal as an Autopilot device, that device gets tagged with something called ZTDID. So that is zero touch deployment ID. So this is an attribute which an Autopilot device is going to have. Any other device which is enrolled to Intune, or any other device which is Azure AD registered or joined to the Azure, is not going to have a ZTD ID. Only a Autopilot device, that is only a device which has been imported to the portal by the vendor or by the IT admin with the serial number and the product key and the hardware hash, is going to have this attribute. So what we can do is we can just make a dynamic group, and in that dynamic group we can make we can make a query for the dynamic group saying that this dynamic group should contain all those devices which have a ZTD ID, meaning that dynamic group is only going to contain the autopilot devices, because autopilot devices are the only device which have the ZTD ID or the zero touch deployment ID to begin with. Meaning that once that dynamic group has been made, all the user now has to do, by user I mean all the admin now has to do is whenever he purchases new device, he just needs to upload the CSV or upload the serial number of the device. Once that device is uploaded to the portal, the device gets automatically added onto the dynamic group, and this dynamic group can be used in the assignment of the autopilot profile. So it's just one time setup. We just need to make the autopilot profile once. We just need to make the dynamic group once. And the only thing that needs to be done over and over again is as in when we purchase new device, the serial number of the device needs to be uploaded. Once the serial number is uploaded, it would automatically get tagged with the ZTD ID. It would automatically get it would automatically become a member of the dynamic group, and as that dynamic group is assigned to an autopilot profile, it's automatically going to fetch their autopilot profile, and as soon as the user powers on the device, he goes through the out-of-the-box experience and the magic happens. Okay, all right. Also, one thing that is new to autopilot is BitLocker integration. So all the devices are automatically enabled with BitLocker encryption as an AAD standard. Another thing that we have is automatic profile assignment. This is something which we just now discussed, that the profile is automatically assigned to automatically assigned to a device if that device is part of a dynamic group. All that needs to be done is that the CSV needs to be uploaded onto the portal. The device is going to get tagged with the ZTD ID, and if that profile is, and if that dynamic group is assigned to a profile, then the device is going to get that deployment profile. Okay, now we have the option of deleting autopilot devices from Intune as well. Earlier we did not have that option, so now we have the option of deleting an autopilot device. Earlier we had to go to Store for Business to make that deletion. Okay, now a Windows Autopilot reset, this is something which is still in preview as of now, but it can still be provisioned. I have personally tried it and it works. So let's just say that there is an autopilot device and that device is running very slow. So in the conventional sense, if we have a device, a Windows 10 device which is running very slow, we have done all the basic prereqs and it didn't work. We did a repair, we did a refresh, we did we did whatever we could, but it didn't work. Then the last resort is reimaging the device, right? So this is equivalent to that. Obviously we are not deploying a new image, but what we can do is something called the autopilot reset. What it is going to do is it is just going to reset the device, and it's going to provision the autopilot profile again to the device. So it's something which can be done directly from the portal, so nothing needs to be done by the end user. The user just needs to click on the device and click on the option autopilot reset, and the device is going to go through the out-of-the-box experience again, and then the device can be brought back to the business ready state. Okay, and the device will get reset, but its Azure AD join and the Intune enrollment will persist, and everything, all the policies and everything will be pushed out to the device again. Okay, now the important part, the autopilot self-deploying mode. So when we are deploying a autopilot profile, when we are making a autopilot profile, we have an option of choosing a mode, the mode that we would like to use, the mode of the profile that we are trying to make. There are two modes. One is user driven and the other one is self-deploying. So we will be taking a look over each of them when we walk through the portal, but Autopilot self-deploying mode is the new one, is the latest one. So Autopilot self-deploying profile has actually taken zero touch experience to a new level by introducing the self-deploying mode. When it is used, all that needs to be done is we just need to power on the device, just need to press that physical button. If the internet connection is there on the device is going to get the profile, the device is going to get Azure AD joined, the device is going to get enrolled to Intune, and all the provisioned policies, app settings is going to get delivered to the device, and the device is going to be in business ready state without even the user having to enter his username or password. So I mean, just think about it, guys. I got a new device from FedEx, I just powered it on, and without even the requirement of me having to press any key, the device is in a business ready state now. So just imagine that, guys. The device has all the applications, everything, without me having to enter my username and password. So this is how it has been, Autopilot has been taken to the next level of zero touch deployment. Where we would be actually using the self-deployment mode is in two cases. First, if we are using it for a shared device, wherein the device is not associated with one single user, but it moves from one user to the other. Or if we are using it for a kiosk, if we are using it something like for a lockdown kiosk, like what we would ordinarily have in airports or in malls, a device wherein we need to go and we need to do a check-in or scan a barcode or something like that. So it's a kiosk device, has one application only. Nobody needs to come and log into the device. All the users are going to make use of one single functionality of the device only. Okay, so for setting this up, this actually what the impact is. Now the Autopilot has, because of this self-deploying mode, it's not only zero touch for the IT, but it is zero touch for the end user as well. So earlier, if you are using any other modes, it is zero touch for the IT, because the IT is at no point of time touching the device. The device is getting provisioned directly to the end user. He is not physically logging into the device, inserting a USB and doing an image. But now it is zero touch for the end user as well, because, well, almost zero touch, because all he is doing is just he's pressing the power on key, and now he is not even entering his username and password. So it is now zero touch for the user as well as for the IT. What in self-deploying mode, what we actually do is it gives us the ability to define the minimum set of configuration and application that the device needs to have. So other than that application which we have defined, the device is going to be in a lockdown kiosk mode, and it's not going to have any other application. And obviously, as I said, until and unless the device gets that application because of the enrollment status page, the device is going to be in the state of limbo, and the device is not going to go to the desktop screen, and the user is not going to make use of it. So because of this self-deploying mode of Autopilot, the devices in a way have become self-configuring machines. So the device knows who we are, or the device doesn't even need to know who we are, because the device already knows. The device doesn't need to ask us who we are. That's the better line for the explanation. The device is not asking us who we are. It's not even asking us for our username and password. Can't get better than that, right? Okay, we will actually see how exactly the self-deploying mode works. from the portal. Unfortunately, this is okay. So self-deploying mode is still in preview, and unfortunately, I would not be able to demonstrate this in my demo lab because for self-deploying mode, we need something. We can only do this on a physical computer, on a physical machine, not on a virtual machine, because the Azure AD authentication happens using a TPM 2.0 chip, and in my virtual machine obviously I don't have one. So one of the prerequisite is the autopilot self-deploying mode needs to be on a physical machine, not on a virtual machine, so we cannot test that one out, but I'll be showing you all the options from the portal itself. Okay, now something which we have added is pre-assigning autopilot to a user. What this means is, let's just say that I purchased 10 devices from the hardware vendor, and I'm going to give these 10 devices to 10 users in my environment. So what I did was I told the vendor that you ship directly these 10 devices to these addresses. You don't ship it to me. These 10 devices go directly to the end user, and the end user powers it on and goes via the out-of-the-box experience. So obviously I as an admin already know that which device is going to which user. Okay, so what I can do is I can obviously the hardware vendor is going to provide us a CSV file with the serial number of the 10 devices that he has shipped, and I as an admin am going to upload those 10 devices to the Intune portal, and then I can see those 10 devices. What I can do using this feature is I can pre-assign a user to a device. What that means is when the user powers on the device, when he has to enter his username and password, his username is going to be pre-populated. So he won't even have to enter his username. He will only have to enter the password for his username. So that is something which we can make use of. It's kind of cool. It's like pre-assigning autopilot device to a user. Okay. The next interesting feature that we have, it's a good one, and it is the device naming schema. So what ideally happened is if you're making use of autopilot device, so that device, once it was registered and once it was joined and enrolled to Intune, it had a generic name like device hyphen and then an alphanumeric number. If we don't want to make use of that, and if we want to have some uniformity over the name of the device that is coming over, then we can use this device naming schema. What this does is it names the devices in a specific format. So let's just say that I want all my autopilot devices to be named as device AP hyphen the serial number of the device. So I can put in that format. I can put in the format by which I would like my devices to get named, the naming convention which I would like my devices to follow once the devices are enrolled to Intune, and they would be named accordingly. The host name of the device would be named accordingly after the out-of-the-box experience. This is something which is available post 1809. So if I'm not exactly sure whether my machine during my demo is 1809 or not, so I'll be configuring it in the portal. I'll be showing it to you how to configure it, and if I have that, if I have 1809, if I am a subscriber to the Windows Insider Preview, then I should be able to demonstrate it. And then comes the big one, one of the most important feature of autopilot, truly magical. Doing an out-of-the-box on-prem AD join. Let's just first talk about why exactly we needed it. Actually, autopilot was initially built to support Azure AD joined devices. So the concept was everybody would move from on-prem to cloud, and everybody would be joining their devices to the Azure AD, and on-prem domain would no longer be leveraged for Windows 10 laptops. So that was the concept. But eventually we realized that all the organization cannot move directly to Azure AD because they have an existing infra and they already have an investment in their local on-prem AD. So they cannot directly move instantly from on-prem AD to Azure AD. Therefore, Autopilot deployment has made it possible to deploy a Autopilot profile which is going to join the device to the on-prem domain as well as join the device to the Azure. So it's doing something like what we would ordinarily refer to as an hybrid Azure AD join. So now it is possible for the first time to get a brand new laptop out of the box, go through the OOB, deploy it to a state wherein the device is joined to the local AD, managed it via SCCM, and probably managed via Intune, or maybe co-managed as well. So first time ever, we can join a device automatically to an on-prem domain. All that needs to be done is we need to enter during the startup, we need to enter the Azure AD credential, which is there in the cloud, which we would normally enter, and it can be there in the cloud or it can be federated on-prem. And what happens is, and ideally in the background, is that an offline domain joining blob is generated for each machine, which gets landed on the Autopilot device. And once the device gets automatically joined to Azure AD, and once the device gets enrolled to Intune actually in the background installs a device VPN on the client. Using this VPN, the device connects to the on-prem domain and connects to the domain controller, and then the device gets joined to the on-prem domain. So what this means is the device can be shipped to any person all over the world, and all that needs to be done is that the device needs an access to the internet, and once the device goes through the out-of-the-box experience, the device can get joined to the local AD. So now we will be, once that is established, we will be able to log into the device using our domain credential as well. There are a few prerequisites to make use of this feature. One of them being that we need to install a connector. So it would make sense if you think of it this way, that what we are doing is the device is getting enrolled to Intune, and then we are saying that the device needs to get joined to a local domain. So we will obviously have to establish that channel between our portal, between Azure and our local on-prem domain. That is something which is established using a connector. So this connector is typically like an Microsoft Intune connector, which we might use for setting up an NDES or PKCS, or it's like a service to it's like an on-prem connector which we might use for Exchange on-prem. So what Exchange on-prem connector does is it establishes a connection between our on-prem mailboxes, on-prem Exchange servers and the Azure cloud. Similarly, what this connector is going to do is it's going to establish a connection between our cloud and our on-prem domain, so that using that connection, the device is able to reach out to our domain and gets enrolled to gets joined to our local domain as well. So that connector needs to be installed and configured on a server running with Windows Server 2016. So that is one of the prerequisites. This feature is also still in preview, but it works quite well. So you guys can test it out. So just need to download the connector from the portal, install it in the 2016 server, enter the creds, connect that server and the connector to the Azure portal, and then we will have to make a few other configuration, push a domain joining profile, and rest will be taken care of. Okay. All right. So I just want to show you guys how exactly the end user experience would be. And this is typically what I was talking about. This is the enrollment status page. So this one. the enrollment status page. So this would not only appear in an autopilot device, but on any device if it has been enabled in the tenant. But as I said, this is something which can be provisioned and made use of with autopilot. So what this is doing is this is just giving us a status update, as in what has been done, what is being done, and what is about to be done. So it is showing that the security policies have been applied. If any PKCS or SCEP profile has been pushed, the device is going to get that. And if any application has been provisioned, it's going to show how many applications have been provisioned, what is the installation state. What is most important to notice here is there is no next or continue button over here. So it is going to give you the update and give you and show you what exactly is happening, where we are stuck, but it is not going to let you skip it. So the device is going to be stuck in this limbo state until and unless it gets all the certificates and the applications and the policies and the configuration, until and unless the device is business ready. Only after that the device is going to move ahead and the device is going to go to the desktop screen. Okay, so let's just say for some reason the device setup failed. So in that case, if it has been configured in the portal, then it gives us an option of collecting the logs. So it would let us browse the folder and collect whatever logs we might want to collect. Over here we can see that the app installation failed. Maybe we provisioned and for example, maybe we provisioned Office Suite and the user does not have a Office license, or maybe we did not give enough time in the timeout attribute of the profile. So maybe we said only stay here for 30 minutes and the app installation took more than 30. So it's going to show as a failed message. So the option, and then it's going to give us a custom message as well, saying that error has deployed error has come, please contact your IT desk, or whatever the admin has configured in the portal. And then it's going to give us an option of try again. If we click on try again, it's going to go back to the initial state and do the out of the box experience once again. Now let's just take a moment and talk about the profiles. I have spoken a little about the user deployment mode, which I said is one of the new features. User driven has always existed. And user driven, what exactly happens is user goes through the customized out of the box experience and then enters his username and password. Once he does that, he goes to the enrollment status page and everything gets installed. In case of self deployment, as I said, it can be used in two cases. Either in case of something like a kiosk, or in case of something like a shared device, which is not attributed to any specific user to begin with. Okay, as I said, one of the additional requirement of this making use of the self-deployment mode is that the device needs to have a TPM 2.0, because the authentication with Azure AD is done via a physical TPM chip. So we cannot actually test the second mode in a virtual machine, but I'll be showing you the options and you will be working with the user driven mode as of now. Okay, all right, so now let's just take a look over the configuration that needs to be done from the portal end. So if we have a new device, all we need to do is we just need to reach out to the hardware vendor and get the device ID and the serial number and upload that to the portal. If we have an existing device, and in my case, if we are going to test it out on the virtual machine, then what we need to do is we need to run a few commands and get that serial number from the device, get the hardware hash, whatever the case may be, the first one or the second one. Once we have that hardware hash, either manually from the device or from the hardware vendor, we need to import that device serial number to the portal, to the Azure portal. We are going to import it, which is going to say that this device is going to be the one which is enrolled with my tenant. Yeah, so I mean, from the portal end, once the device has been imported and once we make a dynamic group, all that needs to be done is we just need to tag it with a, I mean, we just need to make a dynamic group with the ZTD ID. It's not a prerequisite. So if we want, if we don't want to automate it, if we want that, okay, let's just talk about this scenario. Let's just say that we have got two profiles, profile 1 and profile 2, two autopilot profiles. And if we were making use of a dynamic group using ZTD ID, and if that ZTD, if we are going down that route, then we cannot make use of two profiles, right? Because that ZTD ID is there with each device. So if let's just say with profile 1, I have associated G1, and with profile 2 I have associated G2. So there's a profile 1 which is assigned to group 1, there is profile 2 which is associated with group 2. So I cannot use a dynamic group for G1 with the query of ZTD ID, because then this group will contain all the autopilot devices. So obviously if we are targeting all the autopilot devices with P1, then P2 is of no use, right? So what we can do in this case is we can manually assign some devices to this group and manually assign some devices to this group, or use any other query. I mean, make our dynamic query not with the ZTD ID but with any other parameter, right? So the configuration that has to be done from the portal is if it's a new device, we just need to upload the CSV, and if it's a old device, in my case if it's a VM, we just need to get the hardware hash of the device and then upload it to the portal. Once it has been uploaded, then we just need to assign it to a group. It can be a dynamic group or a static group wherein we add the devices manually. Once it has been added, we just need to make a profile and assign it to a group. So that just needs to be done from the portal end. Validation, as far as validation is concerned, once the profile has been deployed to a device, once we are inside the device, the first thing that we can check is the registry. So this is the registry location that we would be typically checking. I will be showing what exactly is supposed to present in this registry location. And this is the event log that we are supposed to be checking, that is provisioning diagnostic provider autopilot. So these are the two things that we would be ideally checking in case of a successful autopilot deployment. Okay, so now guys, let's just get right going. Let's just let me just spin up my Windows 10 machine. Let me just log into my Azure portal, and then we will be going through each and every step of the deployment. Okay. So guys, let me just start up my hypervisor real quick. So I'm going to start my hypervisor, my virtual machines. So I've got two virtual machines right here, both running on Windows 10. I'll have to check which version, whether they are 1803 or 1809, and then we will be okay. So what we will be doing is all right, let me just show you. What we'll be doing is, first we'll be getting the hardware hash of the devices, and once we have the hardware hash, because we are doing it in a virtual machine, so let me just reiterate, if it's a new device, then the hardware vendor provides you the serial ID. If it's an old device or a virtual machine, we don't have the hardware hash, right? So, or the serial number. So we will run a few commands and then get the hardware hash. After that, we will do a system reset of the device. Once we do a system reset, it's going to come to the out of the box experience, which is equivalent to getting a new device and powering it on. So I mean, what we are doing is we are just emulating what exactly the end user would be seeing if he gets a new device and powers it on. So instead of once the end user gets a new device and powers it on, he is going to get through the OOB experience, and the device is going to get the autopilot profile if the serial number is imported into the portal. In this case, since the device is an existing device and we don't have the serial number already. We are going to extract the serial number by logging into the device, and then we are going to system reset the device. Once we system reset it, it's going to go through the out of the box experience, and then it's going to get the autopilot profile. Okay. So I'm just starting my devices here. Once I'm logged into the device, I am going to collect the relevant information, and I'll show you how exactly we are supposed to collect it. Okay guys, so my machine has booted up, so let me just connect to it now. I'm doing it one machine at a time because it's running in my Hyper-V, so I don't want it to be slow. All right, there you go. So I'm right now doing it on a machine called LabDem1. After that, I'll be doing it on another machine. I just want to do it on 2 machines and probably deploy 2 profiles. Yeah, we'll see about that. Okay, all right, so I'm logged in. Okay, so let's just open up a PowerShell prompt. So I'm going to run the PowerShell as an admin. And what we are going to do, what we are typically doing right now is we are extracting the hardware hash because it's a virtual machine. Once we have that, we will reset it, and it will be equivalent to emulating a out of the box experience. If it's a new machine which is shipped to us, we won't have to do that because the hardware vendor is going to provide us the same. Okay. All right, so now I am going to open this as a administrator. Okay, yes. All right. Okay. So let me do a host name and show you the name of this machine. The name of this machine is ending with H96. So all right, let me do this. First, let me do a WinVer and check the version. It is running with 1809, which is a good thing. Okay. And now the first thing that I'm going to do is set the execution policy to unrestricted, because we are going to run a script on this machine, and we are going to make sure that if the execution policy is not unrestricted, then we will not be able to run any other PowerShell script on this. So let me just make sure the spelling is correct. Unrestricted. Yes to all. Okay, let me do a CLS. Now I am going to install the script. So the command to do that is install -script. Just do a tab and it will come up. The name of the script is, come on, just hit the tab, waiting for it to come up. Okay, the name of the script is get-Windows Autopilot. Just do a tab and it should come up. It is get-Windows Autopilot info. I have spelled it correctly, so why is it not coming up? Windows Autopilot info. Okay, I will do a Y. It's going to get added. Please see this location. It's going to get added to C drive, program files, Windows, PowerShell scripts. Okay, so let me just go to this location. It's just going to get a script and create this .ps1 in this location. So I'm just going to go to this location, see, and this is the script which is going to generate the hardware hash and product ID for us. So I'm going to go to C drive, program files, Windows PowerShell scripts, and there should be a script over here which we need. So right now I'm waiting for this to run and generate that script for us. Okay, I am going to click on Y for yes. It's going to install some providers at the backend. So all we have to do is give it the permission to do so. Okay, it finally ran and there we are. So the script is now generated. So once it completes running, automatically a script file gets created in this location. So now all we need to do is we need to run the script. So let me just do this. Let me just go to the C drive and then create a temp over here. So I'm creating a folder over here called temp, wherein I'm going to put the output. Okay, now I'll have to browse to the location wherein the script is present. So I'm going to do a cd/cls cd space program file cd space Windows media. Nope. Where's Windows Power? Yeah, there you go. cd space scripts, and then I want to run this, and okay, so if I enter this script is going to run and it's going to display the hardware hash and the serial number. So I just entered it and it should run, and okay, there you go. This is the hardware hash and the serial number, but I don't want it over here. I want it in a file. So I'm just going to do a output file, and then I am going to do this in the location. Does it have a path parameter? No, it doesn't. Output file in C drive temp. Let's just call it hardware hash dot csv. It's generated. This is equivalent to getting a CSV from a vendor. So I'm just going to C drive temp, and this is the hardware hash that I'm looking at. So let me just open this hardware hash and show you what this actually has in it. So I'm opening it with a notepad, and there you can see that it has got 3 columns: device serial number, Windows product ID, and hardware hash. Okay, so this is the device serial number. It does not have the product ID, therefore you can see that this is blank, and this is the hardware hash. So this combination of the hardware hash and the serial ID is what makes this device unique. Okay, the product ID is not mandatory. We can get it from the registry location as well. I'll show you the registry location, but it's not a mandate. So even if we have the device serial number and the hardware hash, this should work. Okay, so let me just copy this and get it to my base machine wherein I will be uploading it. Okay, so this is my hardware hash. So there is another way of doing this as well. So right now what I did was I generated, okay, let me show you guys. The first step is setting the remote execution policy to unrestricted, and then I did a install script which installed a script in C drive, program files, Windows PowerShell scripts, and then I went to that location, and then I ran that PS1 which gave me the output I needed to, which I exported in an output file. Okay, you can run that PS1 which we generated, or you can run some commands and get that output manually. So let me run this command. this is going to get me the serial number. Okay, so this should display the serial number. Okay, you know what, better let me just do a CLS, and then this is getting me the serial number. This is going to get me the product ID. So what it is doing is it's going to HKLM software Microsoft Windows NT current version default product key product ID. This is wherein the product ID of the device is present, and we are doing a get item property value. Therefore it's going to get us the fetch the value from the registry location. Getting the product ID is not a mandate, but yeah, well, it's something which you can include. So this is the product ID, and to get the serial number I need to go to this location. Okay, so I'm going to this, I'm running this. It should make a file in C drive program files, Windows PowerShell scripts, because that's where I ran it, and this is the hardware hash. So let me just open it up and then go back and show you what I got previously. So what I'm trying to show is there are two ways of generating this information. Both are going to generate the same information eventually. Okay, you can run that PS1 which is going to give you both the information, or you can run one command at a time which is also going to give you the same information. So let me just open up the old file in Notepad. Okay, this is the one which we saw initially. So over here you can see that it has device serial number, product ID, hardware hash. This is the device serial number that we got from the script, and this is the device serial number that we got by running this command. So this command is getting us this information, this is also getting us the same information, right? So which more or less means is the same thing. Windows product ID, this is blank. This, because it's not a mandate, I could have gone to that registry location and got that product key. This is getting us that product key, which is obviously not a mandate. And then the hardware hash. So this is the hardware hash that we got from the script starting with T0FQA, and this is the other hardware hash that we have got by running this command. So both are the same is what I'm trying to say. So you can make use of the command manually, or you can use the PowerShell script to get the CSV file. Okay, so I've got the CSV file over here named hardware hash. Let me just rename it to demo1 hardware hash so that I don't get confused. Okay, so now what needs to be done is, now we need to reset this device, and after we reset this device is going to get to the out of the box experience, and then it is going to get the autopilot profile that we are going to create, and we are going to assign it to this device. So the reset of this device is going to take some time. Therefore I'm going to initiate the reset and then go back to the portal and initiate and start the process of creation of profiles. But ideally the profile obviously has to be created first, and it needs to be, and the CSV needs to be uploaded. After that the device should undergo the out of the box experience. But resetting the device might take more than a couple, it might take up to a couple of hours. Therefore, to save some time, I am going to reset it. So the command is system reset, enter. So it's going to ask me to make sure that do I actually want to reset it. I'll have to do a yes, and then it will be all set. So I'm waiting for the prompt. No, remove everything. Okay, I don't want to keep anything in the device. Okay, this is quicker, so let's just go on with just remove my files. The aim of this is just emulating out of the box experience, so it doesn't matter which one we choose. Okay, so it's going to go through the out of the box experience after the reset is done. So let's just make sure that it doesn't ask for any other prompts, and then we will minimize this and we'll go back to the Azure portal. Okay, so and then we'll be doing the same thing on one more machine. Probably we can do it twice and then see how exactly it differs, if it does at all. Now it's asking us, are you ready to reset this? All the personal files will be removed. This might take a while. PC will restart. Okay, I'm fine with that. So it's at 1% now. It might take some time, so I'm going to pause this video now. Or maybe what I can do is, meanwhile, I can go to the portal and show you guys from there. So let me go to the Azure portal and then upload the file over there. So I'm going to portal.azure.com. We can do it in Windows Store for Business as well, which I'll be showing you guys later. Right now I'm doing it in the Azure portal. So let me log into the portal and then go to Microsoft Intune, sign in. So the place where we'll be doing it is device enrollment and then Windows enrollment. This is where the autopilot resides. So there are 4 things that we need to configure over here. The enrollment status page, which I said is a new feature 1803 release, not autopilot feature, but something which can be used with autopilot, still in preview. The deployment profiles, this is wherein we make the deployment profile which is deployed to the autopilot. Devices, this is wherein we import the devices. And Intune connector for Azure AD. For Active Directory, this is still in preview. This is for configuring the hybrid Azure AD joint devices. Okay. All right. So the first step is importing the devices. So I'll click on devices and then I will click on import. It's saying that import Windows Autopilot devices from a .csv file. It can be something which is provided by our hardware vendor, or it can be something which we have manually generated. Okay. Formatting requirements, it needs in a different format, in a specific format. It needs the serial number, it needs the product ID, this is optional, and it needs the hardware hash, comma separated. Optional is order ID. So we can use order ID also and then make a ZTD ID group. I mean not a ZTD ID, a dynamic group with the order ID. So it needs these information in this format, 175 rows maximum allowed. So I'm just going to import the one which I just created called demo hardware hash. If the formatting is not correct, then the import is going to fail. So over here it says that the format is correct. And if the device is already present, then again the import fails, saying that the device is already present. So right now, as we can see that something is happening over here. It's trying to upload the device information onto the portal, and it's saying that it might take up to 15 minutes. So we'll have to give it some time. We might have to run a sync, and then the device should show up over here. Meanwhile, let's just go back to the device, and over there, yeah, the reset is still pending. So let's just give it some time and let's just wait for the reset to happen. Reset might take some time. Once the device shows up over here, then we can probably go ahead and create a deployment profile. Okay. Okay guys, so now the device is showing up over here. The sync ran successfully. So you can see that the last sync request time is 8:30 p.m. and currently it's 8:31. So 2 minutes, 1 minute back, the sync ran successfully and the device is now showing up over here. So just to confirm guys, this is the CSV file that I uploaded, and let me just show you guys real quick. This was the serial number starting with 2042. And that is exactly the serial number of the device that I'm able to see over here. So the device has been successfully uploaded onto the portal. Okay, and now you can see that the profile status is currently not assigned because currently no profile has been assigned to this device. So now the first step is done, that is we have the device. Now the second step is creating a deployment profile. So now I am going to create a deployment profile. Okay, so just click on Windows Autopilot deployment profiles and then click on create profile. Like all the policies and profile, we will have to name it. So let me just name it demo autopilot DEPLOYMENT Yeah, I know it's a big name. By default, this profile can only be applied to autopilot devices. Yes, I only want it to autopilot devices, therefore I'm not going to do any change in that. You can read over this for more information. And then the deployment mode, this is the mode that I was talking about. There are two modes, user driven or self deploying. User driven and self deploying is still in preview. So if I click on self deploying, then if it's a self deploying profile, then it we do not have the option of doing something like hybrid Azure AD joined. Self deploying has to be Azure AD joined. So if I click on that, then it gives us the option of configuring the out of the box experience. But unfortunately, this is something which we cannot do as of now because I don't have a physical device, because as I said, it needs a TPM 2.0 chip for the authentication. So right now all I can show you is user driven. So in user driven, I have two options, Azure AD and hybrid Azure AD joined. The hybrid Azure AD joined is the one which will join the device to the on-prem domain as well. And if we want to do that, we will have to install a connector, and we need a Windows Server 2016. So I don't have that set up as of now. So I'm going to do a Azure AD join. Therefore, the device is going to be joined to Azure AD and enrolled to Intune as a part of out of the box. So I'm going to click on Azure AD joined and then click over out of the box experience. This is wherein I will be configuring what is the out of the box experience the user is going to have. Okay, so I just clicked on the out of the box experience. Now end user license agreement, this is something which we can choose to show or hide. I want to hide it. Therefore, if you are undergoing a normal out of the box experience, the EULA is mandatory. In this case, it's not. Therefore, I did a hide. Privacy settings, I can do a hide or I can show. Depending upon this, the end user will be able to or will not be able to see it. Hide account properties, I can do a hide or a show. Change account properties. And the last one is account type. So whatever account is created, whether that's going to be a standard user or an administrator. Okay, the last one is this is something which is there in Windows Insider program only. So when the device comes online, the device gets a random name. So we can specify a template over here. So if I do a yes, it's going to ask me what template I want to use. So I can use a template something like this. Okay. All right, so let me put in a template. Let me call it my demo colon. Okay, I'll have to look up the format. Okay, it's a dash. So my demo dash percentage RAND colon X percentage. We have to make sure that the format is correct. So I guess my format is correct. Not exactly sure why is it okay, use the percentage. So it's saying that we need to use the percentage serial percentage macro to add a hardware specific serial number. Alternatively, use macro to add a random string of numbers. Okay, so if I put in percentage SERIAL percentage, and before that I want to put in my lab demo. Okay, I think I'm exceeding the number of characters, that's why it's giving me this. Okay, mylabd. Okay, let me just do with this. So this is the macro I want to use. So the name of the device would be mylabd followed by the serial number. Okay, if this if this works, I mean if I'm subscribed to Windows Insider only. Okay, so I am hiding this account type, it's user driven, Azure AD joined, save. Okay, I can do a create. Okay, it looks good. Now I will have to assign this profile to a group, but before that I need to have a group. So I am going to create a group. So I'm going to go to general and then new group, and then let me just show you guys how exactly this works. So I'm going to make a static group, but we can make a dynamic group as well. So security, I'm going to call it demo autopilot group. Okay, and copy, let's just paste it here. If I do a dynamic device, then I'll have to add a dynamic query, and I'll have to go into advanced rules, and I'll have to add this query. The query is this: device.device physical ID any contains ZTD ID, which means that if any device has a ZTD ID, I want that device to be added onto this group. So let me just put it over here, do a add query and do a create. Okay, this has been created. I don't need to assign any members to it manually. So if I go back into the group now, okay, I'm just looking for the group, guys. Why can't I see it? Okay, autopilot, let me just do a, all right, I did a save, didn't I? Okay, there you go, it's a demo autopilot group. Okay, I'm going into members, and it should automatically populate with the device that is present over there. Okay, so it might take some time. While it does, let me create another group. I am going to create another, because I don't want to make use of dynamic group, I want to make use of a static group. So I'm going to create a, but I'm going to show you that both the groups are going to have the information. So I'm going to create a security group, and I'm going to call it autopilot. That's it, plain, simple and easy. Autopilot, and membership type is assigned members, and over here I'll have to select the device. So this is my device. It auto populates because the device has been uploaded to the portal. So I'll just have to click on the device, select, and then do a create. Device has been added onto the group. Okay, if I, okay, let me go to general and let me go back to all groups. I should be able to see two groups. First is the autopilot group, whose member is this device, and second is this demo autopilot group, whose member is still not populated. So it's going to run some queries at the back end and then realize that, okay, this device has a ZTD ID, therefore it needs to run this query and come up over here. So if we run a refresh a couple of times, the device should come over here. Okay, so now let me just go back to device enrollment and then Windows enrollment. Over here we have uploaded the device, we have made a device profile. Okay, and it's a user driven profile. Now it needs to be assigned. So now I am assigning this profile to a group. The name of this group is autopilot. Okay, needs to be a device group, not a user group. Please keep that in mind. Needs to contain the device onto which we want to deploy it. Okay, so I just did a select and I did a save. Okay, so it has been successfully added. Now there is one more thing that we can go and do in devices. That is, if I click on this device and do something called assign user, what that's going to do is, during the out of the box experience, when it asks for the username and password, it's going to pre-populate with a user. So I'm going to click on user and I'm going to create select a user with which I want to pre-populate. So I have a user called Liz. So I want to use this user. So let me do a select and then a save. So all this is going to do is it's just going to pre-populate this user. So Liz has been successfully assigned to this device. So it's not going to make much of a difference, just that user will not have to enter his username, just the password. So if you are sure who is going to use the device, then we might as well make use of it. Okay, so now the assignment looks fine. It's autopilot. Assigned devices will show up over here as well. Okay, so now during the out of the box experience, we have put in some things. Okay, now what I want to do is I want to deploy some applications as well onto this device. So to assign the applications, I'll have to go into the client apps, and then we can assign applications to autopilot devices from Windows Store for Business. So I'll go to apps, and if you haven't purchased any application from Store for Business, you can do that, or you can make use of free applications. I already have some. So I have typically what we can you can also provision applications like LOB applications as well, not necessarily Store for Business applications. Any applications that you can provision can be used in conjunction with the enrollment status page, which I'm going to show you now. So I have let me just deploy the test suite. Okay, so I have the test suite over here, and let me just remove the existing. Okay, existingly it doesn't have anything. Okay, so let me just show it to you again. There is a test suite. I'm clicking on that. The properties is it's a Windows 10 test suite, and it has Excel and Outlook, these two applications which are going to get installed. Okay, and then these are all the informations that we I mean, that is not much to be configured over here. So I mean, it's just a test suite, Office 365 test suite. All I'm going to do is I am going to assign this, and please keep in mind the assignment has to be required. If it's available, then it requires user intervention, right? But we don't want any user intervention, so it has to be required with autopilot for it to work. And I'm going to select a group called autopilot. I'm going to do select, and I'm going to do OK, and then OK, and then save. So now this application has been deployed to a autopilot group. So I want to deploy a LOB application as well. So I think I have one. Let me just see. I have Power BI. Okay. Let me just assign. Let me just check the properties. It's if it's not a application compatible with the device onto which it's being deployed, it might cause issues. So please make sure that you're deploying the right application. It's a Windows 10 application, so I can assign it. So I'm going to make it again an required application, and then the group is going to be autopilot. Okay. All right. Okay. Okay. Save. Okay, so right now I have got two applications. One is the suite and Office suite, and one is the Power BI, which is assigned to autopilot group as required. Autopilot group contains the information. Okay, now the last thing that we can configure is the enrollment status preview page. So over here, let me just show you how it works. So let me just name it autopilot PREVIEW preview. Okay, settings. It's asking that during the installation, do you want to show the status? So if an application is getting installed, do we want to show the status of the installation? If we do no, that's fine. If we want to do a yes, then it's going to show a status. This is the timeout for which the enrollment status page is going to run, after which it's going to show an error if the app installation is not completed. So for example, if I'm installing Office Suite and if I give 15 minutes, so obviously Office might not get installed in 50 minutes and it might run out of time. Therefore, please make sure that if you're deploying a lot of applications, the time over here is appropriate. So I'm going to do a 120 minutes over here and then show a custom message. Yes, I want to show a custom message if it fails, which is contact your help desk, and then allow users to collect installation errors. Yes, I want them to. And most importantly, the last one, this is the setting that gets the device into limbo. Block device use until all apps and profiles are installed. If I do a yes, then the user will be able to see the status, but he won't be able to go to the desktop and make use of the device until the device is business ready. If I do a yes, then it's going to ask me that whether you want to allow the user to reset the device if installation occurs. Yes. If you want to allow the users to use device if the installation occurs. No, because if there is an installation error that has occurred, then the device is not business ready, right? It didn't get the application which the admin wanted the device to have. Therefore, he should not be able to use it. And at the end, block devices use until these required apps are installed if they are assigned to the user/device. So I have to select the applications which I am marking as required. So I might have deployed 10 applications over here as required, but I want that the enrollment status page should wait until and unless few of the applications which I'm mentioning over here are deployed. So out of those applications, one is Test Suite and one is I think it is not, Microsoft Power BI Desktop. So until and unless these two applications, so I've deployed these two applications to this to the Autopilot device, right? If I uncheck this, that means that if this application is installed in the device, then it will go ahead. It would go ahead from the limbo state, even though this is also delivered. So this installation will happen in the background, but the enrollment status page won't block the user until this is deployed. But if I select both, then both have to be installed. Okay, if I select any other application which is not actually targeted to the device, then again it might cause some problem. Okay, so I have selected Test Suite and Microsoft Power BI. I've done a select, I have done a save, I have done a create. Now it's going to ask me to whom you want to assign it. So obviously I want to assign it to the Autopilot group that I have created. So I'm going to do a Autopilot, and it's getting deployed. So now it is saved. So now my Autopilot, now my enrollment status page is also in place. So it's not only for Autopilot devices, it's for everybody. So by default, if I click on default, if I go to the properties and settings, these are the by default settings, right? And this is going to take preference. This is the one that I've created. So for the user group to which, or the device group to which I've assigned this profile, this is going to take preference. For all the other devices, this is going to take preference. By the time the devices come up, there are some, okay, so right now when I'm going into this device, it's showing as assigned, because this device is part of a security group, and that security group has been assigned to a deployment profile, right? Okay, and one more thing which I probably can show you guys is it's still members. Okay, so if you remember guys, I made two groups. One was the Autopilot group, which was the manual one, which I assigned statically, and one is the dynamic group, which was getting information from the ZTD ID. Therefore, if I go to members, I can see that now it also has the device. It got assigned to it automatically. It was not assigned statically. So it took some time, but it realizes and then it adds itself. Okay, so now let me go to Windows Enrollment, and then okay, so we are done with devices, deployment profiles, enrollment status page, and at the end the Intune connector for Azure Active Directory. This is for configuring the hybrid Azure AD joint devices, as in during the out of the box the device is going to get enrolled to Intune, as well as the device is going to get joined to the Azure ID as well as joined to the on-prem domain because that blob is sent to that device and a VPN connection is created to the on-prem domain. So for that we will have to create the connection between this portal and our on-prem domain. For that we will have to install a connector. So I'll have to click on add and then download the on-premise Intune connector for Active Directory. I'll have to click on that, and then the download will start. This once this is downloaded, we will have to install it on a server running with Windows Server 2016. Once it is installed, we just have to log into it, and then we will be able to see it as active over here, just like we see an Intune connector, Intune NDES connector, or just like we see a Exchange connector. So right now my device is still undergoing reset, so I still have to wait on the device. For now there's nothing much to be done once the device comes online, so nothing else needs to be done from the portal. So this is just a one-time configuration. Now if all the admin needs to do is upload a CSV, the device is going to get added over here, and it will be a part of that dynamic group automatically. Once it is, the profile is going to hit the device automatically. So no other configuration needs to be done from the portal other than uploading the CSV for the newly purchased devices. At the device end, we just have to wait for the device to undergo the reset. Once the reset is done, then we will log into the device, and we will see what exactly the out of the box experience is for the device. Okay, so I'm going to pause the recording for now, and once the device is back up, we will see the out of the box experience. Meanwhile guys, I could also show you one other thing. So as I said that there are 3 ways by which we can manage the autopilot profile. So one we are already going through, we have already made the profile via Intune. The other second one is store for business. So all you have to do is go to Google and type Microsoft store for business. Go to the first website that comes up, and then we will have to log into the store. So I'm already logged in. We'll have to go to manage, and over here we'll have to go to the devices section. So over here we can see one device, right? This is the same device which we are able to see over here. It's the same device. And over here, if I go on the drop down of autopilot deployment, this is the profile that I can see. Apply demo autopilot deployment profile. This is the profile that I have over here as well. Demo autopilot deployment profile. So what I'm saying is whatever information we are seeing over here is synced over here. So we can create a profile from here, we can edit our profile from here, or we can assign devices from here, or we can the only thing we earlier had to do was if we wanted to delete a device, we had to delete it from here and then sync it over there. So I mean, what I'm trying to say is if I click over here and I whatever information I'm seeing over here, it's the same thing. We can add devices as well. If I click on add device, it's asking me to upload a CSV. So I can upload a CSV and then run a sync. Once I upload the sync, it is going to show the device over here, right? So I mean, it's the same. I mean, same thing, 2 interfaces, more or less the same. I mean, I would encourage you guys making use of Intune if you're using Intune as a MDM, but this is something which you can provision as well. The same way we can create a profile, add devices, whatnot, and then make deployments. Okay, so guys, just wanted to touch base again and show that the device is still undergoing reset. It's at 82%, so I'm still waiting on it. It takes a little amount of time for the reset to undergo. So once the reset is done, Then it's going to go through the out of the box experience. It's going to ask me to log in. Once I do, the applications are going to get provisioned. So still waiting on this process to finish, and yeah, we'll take it from there once it's done. Okay guys, so the machine is now back up, and now you can see that it's at the out of the box experience screen. And the first thing that it is asking us is to choose a region. So region, language, and keyboard are three things which we cannot skip from an autopilot deployment. Therefore, it's a mandate. Therefore, we will have to select a region. I'm going to go with US, though I'm located in India, but yeah, let's just roll with it. Okay, is the keyboard right? Yes, it looks right to me. You want to add a secondary keyboard layout? No, I want to skip it. Okay, this is when it's checking the internet connection of the device, and it's trying to identify whether it's connected to a Ethernet cable or not. If not, then whether it's connected to a Wi-Fi or not. So this is when it actually at the top, if you can see, there's something called network. So it's checking the network prerequisite. It's making sure that all the ports are open, all the prerequisites are in place, and it's just making sure that the device is connected to the internet. And this is ideally when it will realize that yes, it's an autopilot device, and the autopilot profile will be reaching the device, and we should in a moment be able to see the custom branding page. So it just keeps on showing different messages, like I mean, it's keeping us up to date as in what is happening, what exactly the device is doing. So the display is much more verbose right now. So whatever is happening, it's showing us, and it rebooted once. So it might undergo a reboot couple of times while the autopilot profile reaches the device and it takes effect. So yeah, there you go. So this is the part I wanted to show you guys. The first thing you would like to notice here is over here you do not have an option of joining this device to the local domain. So let me show you guys the presentation. And in the presentation, if you guys noticed in one of the slides, yeah, I believe this one, this is the without autopilot. Please ignore this verbiage. So in the without autopilot OOBE, there was an option saying domain join instead. So if you are going to local on-prem domain join a device, that's the option we would normally choose in a normal device, which is not autopilot. However, as this is an autopilot device, that option is not there. That's the first thing. Second thing, we can see there is a custom message over here, and this is there in my company branding. I will show it right now how to set that up. And the third thing, we can see that it's not asking me for a username, it's asking me for a password. The username is pre-populated, and it's saying that let's get started, enter your password for this user account, because we have assigned this device to a user. Okay, so let me just assign set in the password for Liz. Okay, now it's going to make sure that I have the authority to join a device to Azure AD. It's just going to make sure that I have a P1 license. It's going to make sure that automatic enrollment is set to, the scope is appropriately set. It's going to make sure that I have an EMS license. Then the device is going to be Azure AD registered, Azure AD joined, and then enrolled to Intune. Okay guys, so now the device is in the enrollment status page. So let's just click over here and see what it's saying. So securing your hardware, joining your organization's network, registering your device for mobile management. So When I entered my username and password, this happened in the background, and the device is now Azure AD registered, joined, and enrolled to Intune. Now it's working on the setup. So now let's just click on this and see what's it saying. Security policy 1 of 1 applied, certificate no setup needed, network connection no setup needed, apps 0 of 2 installed. So this is that state of limbo, because I have said that user should not be able to continue unless and until the device is business ready. Had I chosen another option, there would have been option at the bottom of the screen saying continue, and the user would be able to bypass this screen and go directly to the desktop screen. However, I did not choose that option. Therefore, in this case, it's going to show me the entire progress. However, the device is going to be in this state unless and until the device actually goes through all the installation of the apps. So if I go to the devices, in a while I should be able to see this device as enrolled. And yeah, there you go. I am able to see this device over here, and as you can see, it is following the correct naming convention as well. So if you remember, the naming convention that I followed was my lab D followed by the serial number of the device, and the serial number of this device is 420 something something. We can confirm that as well. So device enrollment, Windows enrollment. Meanwhile, I took the liberty of uploading one more device, but this is the device we are talking about. So where were we? I'm testing something else with the other device, but this is the device that we are talking about. And okay, this is the serial number. So I believe it has not picked the serial number. This is some other number that it has picked up, because it's showing that 4205931. Okay, it's 4205. Okay, 42059. I'm not exactly sure how exactly it picked it up, but it is adhering to the naming convention that I applied. And now you can see that this device is let me scroll over here. Maybe let me do this. My lab. Okay, let me go to the Azure AD devices, and over here put in my lab. Yeah, that's the device, and the device is Azure AD joined. So this device owner is this. The device is enrolled to Intune, joined to Azure AD. Okay. So now all we have to do is we'll have to wait for the application to install, and once the application is installed, only then we will be able to continue and go to the next screen. And if the installation of the application fails, then probably it will give us an appropriate error message on the screen. Okay guys, so it is still happening, and okay, so right now you can see that one app has installed out of 2. So depending upon the size of the application, it might take a while. So one of my application is a LOB app, that is Power BI, and the other one is MS Office. Therefore, it's taking a bit of time, which is fine. And yeah, so so guys, let me show you guys something interesting. The first thing that I wanted to show you guys is the company branding, and the second thing which I'll be showing you, I'm sure that you'll find that very interesting. So okay, we'll have to go to Azure Active Directory and then scroll all the way down, and there we have something called company branding, and then there's a default branding which I've created. You can click on that, and over here you can select a photograph which you want to be displayed. So if you're enrolling an Android or iOS, this photograph will come on in the company portal application. I know I look scary, but in case of Windows, you can select a logo, and you can select what is going to get displayed at the time of login. Along with that, you can select a sign-in background color. This is something which needs to be in the hexadecimal format. You can convert that and put that in. So this is what is going to get typically displayed to a user when the user is going through the out-of-the-box experience, and this lets him know that okay, I'm getting connected to my company's I'm getting connected to my corp and not any other, or I mean he will know that he's going down the right path, so to speak, because my organization, if one hardware is shipped to somebody from my organization and if he sees my logo, he knows that yes, he's going the right way, correct? So yeah, this is something which you can set up. Meanwhile, guys, what I did was I went into device enrollment, Windows enrollment, and devices, and I imported one more device. So what I did was I had another Windows 10 1809. I generated the hardware hash from that. So let me just show you the second machine. This is my second machine. Let me just show you the ID for that machine. So I'm just waiting for the Excel to open up. Okay, so this is the one starting with 6104. Okay, so okay, so this is the other machine that I have imported, and I wanted to use this machine a little differently. So guys, if you remember that we had two modes, a user-driven mode and a self-deploying mode. User-driven mode was for normal users, and for self-driven mode it was if we are using it for a kiosk or if we are using it for a shared device. I know I cannot show you self-deploying because I don't have a physical computer as it's a prerequisite, but what we can do is we can create a user-driven profile, and on top of that we can push a kiosk browser. So the way to do that would be, first we will have to import the device. So I've imported the device over here. This is the device, and then we will have to go into deployment profiles. So this is a test profile that I have created. So there are two profiles. The second profile is the one for which it's going on at the background, this one, and I have created another profile. So this is the profile that I've created. If I go to properties, this is the name. It's a user-driven profile similar to the first one. And if I go to the settings, you can see that end user license agreement is hidden, privacy settings is hidden, account type is hidden, and apply computer name, no, because I mean I could have, I just decided not to. Doesn't make any difference. So normal autopilot profile has been deployed onto this device. On top of that, for this device, I have made a different enrollment status page. So I have made two enrollment status profile. Second one is assigned to a different group, and the first one is assigned to a different group. So obviously we have to make sure that if we're making two autopilot profile or two different enrollment status pages, both of them are assigned to different groups, different security groups. Both are assigned groups of which the devices are a member of. So in this, let's just take a look over this enrollment status page, the second one. So this enrollment status page, if we take a look at the settings, you can see that everything is more or less the same. Show the app and the profile installation progress, yes. Show the error timeout 120 and then contact IT. Everything is the same except for the selected apps, I have selected a kiosk browser. So this, and how did I select this kiosk browser? What I did was I went to client apps, I went to apps, and I went to Microsoft Store for Business, and from Store for Business I subscribed for a kiosk browser. I synced it, and then the browser came up over here. Then I deployed this browser to a Windows 10 machine. Okay, so this is a Windows, this is a group, and onto that group that new autopilot device is a part of. So I have deployed this kiosk browser to that Windows Autopilot device as required. Okay, and this is the app information, nothing much to be seen here. So what I'm trying to say is I have got two devices. The first device, onto the first device I have deployed Office Suite and Power BI, which is a LOB app. And onto the second device, I have deployed a kiosk browser. Okay, so far there is not much difference. One device has two applications and one has a kiosk browser. Now what needs to be done is we need to configure the kiosk browser. So what we need to do now is we need to go to device configuration and push a profile. So if I go do a create and select Windows 10 and later, there is a profile called kiosk. So this profile, in this profile, we can select what kind of kiosk profile we want to push, a single app or a multi-app. I am going to select single app. It's going to ask me who is going to log in. I want to say auto log on. It's going to ask me application type. I want a kiosk browser. I can add a store app as well. So I added a kiosk browser. It's going to ask me the kiosk browser settings. I can put in a default home page. I can say that home button should be shown or should not be shown, end session button should be shown, should not be shown, refresh browser, timeout, so on and so forth. I can blacklist or whitelist some URLs. So if I upload a CSV containing 100 URLs, so only that 100 URLs will be whitelisted, rest all will be blocked. Okay, so I made a profile like this. This is the profile that I have already made, so I'm not going to create another. This kiosk browser settings. So let's just take a look at the assignments. It is assigned to a group called AAH, and this new device is a part, this new device LabDem2 is a part of that AAH group. Okay, so let me just initiate a RDP session. And while this loads in, let's go back to the portal. So let's just look at the properties of this profile. The settings that I've configured is single app kiosk. If I want, I can put in multi-app kiosk. The app that I've selected is kiosk browser, and the default homepage is facebook.com. Everything is hidden. Okay, so nothing much to be done. So I mean, I have created a group called AAH, and in this AAH I have assigned the other device. So this device is, this is the other device, which is Autopilot, which has been uploaded by me. So if I go to device enrollment, Windows enrollment, and then devices, this is that device. Okay, so this device is a part of the AAH group. So to sum it up, what I have done is I have created two Autopilot profiles. The first one is for a group called Autopilot devices, and the second one is for a group called AAH. The first profile has a different enrollment status page, which has made Office Suite and Power BI as mandatory. The second device is a part of different enrollment status page, which has made kiosk browser mandatory. Okay, and in the first device, for the group of the first device, I have deployed the Office Suite and the Power BI LOB application, and for the second one I have deployed kiosk browser and configured that kiosk browser using a device configuration profile. Okay, so now how is it actually works is, in a kiosk browser, a user should not have to ideally log in with their username or password. So obviously both the devices are going to be Azure AD joined and enrolled to Intune. So if I go to devices and all devices, so I should be able to see two devices. These are the two devices, the first one and this one. I did not put in a computer naming template in this one, therefore this is a normal naming convention, and this one has followed a naming convention. Both have been enrolled by the same user. Okay, so over here you can see both are enrolled by Liz. Okay, so what happens is both the devices are enrolled to Intune. So once the device starts up, may that be this one or may that be this one. This one is I believe, yeah, this one is still installing the application. So what is exactly going to happen is once the application is installed, we are going to be logged in. So similarly in the other device, I was logged in, but in case of kiosk, a local admin user is created in the device called kiosk. Okay. If you're deploying a kiosk profile, this is nothing related to Autopilot. I mean, if I deployed a kiosk profile on top of Autopilot, right? And the enrollment status page, what it did was it blocked the user's access until the profile was deployed. So if you're deploying a kiosk profile, then what happens is it creates a local user in the device named kiosk. And this user does not have any password. The only glitch here is that this user is not a local admin, so you will have to log in using the credentials that you provided, that is using Liz credential. Go to the computer management and make kiosk a local admin. Once you have done that, you can log off and maybe restart. And now you can see that a local user is created named kiosk. I have not created this user, the policy created it for me, and there is no password. So if I just press enter, I'm going to get logged into this device. So let's just see what happens when I get logged in. Okay. All right, something happened. I was logged in and then I got logged out automatically. Okay, let me just try it again. So let me do a connect. So the display name is kiosk and the username is kiosk user 0. So that is what I am looking for. So if I do a other user / kiosk user 0 and the password is nothing. So it's logging me out, but what is actually supposed to happen is facebook.com is supposed to open up over here automatically. So okay guys, so now I logged in again. I just restarted this machine and I'm logging in again. It's, yeah, there you go. Okay, so I'm just going to reboot it and show it to you once again. But yes, as you can see now, it's the same machine, labdem2. All I did was I rebooted it, and now you can see that it has facebook.com, and it doesn't, I mean, as I had configured it in my profile, it does not have the home button or the refresh button or the minimize button. So this is ideally like a kiosk device which you would see in a mall or in an airport. So only one application is there. User can just walk up to it, scan their barcode, and they can do nothing else. They cannot even reboot the device. So yeah, so this is like Autopilot plus deploying a device configuration profile like a kiosk. So it's kind of like locking down the device. This can also be achieved using self-deploying profile. The only advantage of using that over this is in self-deploying profile, you won't even have to log in. In this case, I had to log in with the username and password of Liz, and once during the enrollment phase, and once I was at the desktop screen, I had to go to the local admin and add this kiosk user into the local admin. So by default, only Liz, that is the person who was enrolling this device, was a part of the local admin. So I had to make kiosk user a part of the local admin, log off, and then log in again into the device, and then it was working. So the profile was deployed along with Autopilot deployment. It's just that the only glitch was I had to provide local admin creds. So it's not 100% zero touch, but it is something which was provisioned with Autopilot itself. So let me just reboot this machine, and once this machine comes back up, I'll show you guys that in case you missed it the first time. So I am just going to do let me just do a hard boot. What the hell? Okay, I'm just doing a reset. Meanwhile, the main aim of showing you guys is, the main thing I want to show you guys is the out-of-the-box experience for a user-driven profile. So the installation is still happening. As I said, one of the application is Power BI, which is a LOB app. Kind of heavy. I could have chosen an easier one. And the other is Office, which is something which a lot of admins might actually want to use. Therefore, I use these two applications. So once the app installation is done, I would actually show you guys how it exactly looks. Okay guys, so I just rebooted this machine again. So as I was saying, when the device is out of the box experience for the first time, the kiosk user will be there, but if I try to log in with the kiosk user, it will say that the user does not have RDP rights. So the user who has enrolled this device will have to log in for the first time. So that is what I'm trying to show you guys. So it's liz@nuggetlabs.onmicrosoft.com. By now I should have memorized the password for Liz. Okay, Liz is logging in. Okay, it's fine, sign in anyway. So this device is joined to the Azure AD, and therefore a credential created in the cloud is able to log in. And obviously this device is not joined to on-prem, therefore an on-prem user cannot. Only a local admin or a cloud crate can log into this device. Okay, I'm logged in. Let's just wait for it to load up. Okay, so now you can, if I run a search with kiosk, I can see that an application named kiosk browser should be installed on this device. Yes, there you go. An application named kiosk browser is installed in this device. If I go to computer management, there you go. If I open up this snap-in, then I should be able to see that a local user named kiosk user 0 is created with a display name of kiosk, which is the one we were just looking at a little while back. So there are two policies. One is the kiosk browser policy, which is creating local user which has been deployed. One is the kiosk browser policy, which is installing the kiosk browser from store for business, and one is the device configuration profile for kiosk, which is configuring that kiosk browser and creating the local account for us to log in with. So it's created, and if I go into local users and groups and users, I can see that a kiosk user 0 is created with a display name of kiosk. By default, it's not a part of administrator. So this is when Liz would be logging into the device and adding kiosk user 0 to a part of admin, after which kiosk user 0 would be able to RDP into this device. So now if I sign out and if I try to sign in now with kiosk user 0, let's see what happens. So let me just do a Control-Alt-Delete and just do a enter here, fingers crossed. Okay, kiosk browser loads up and Facebook launches. User does not have any other option to do anything else with this device rather than making use of this as a kiosk device. So that is something which you can leverage if you're not making use of self-provisioning profile. You can use a user-driven profile with a device configuration policy, and that's how you can make use of it. So if I go into the portal and if I go into this device, not this one, the other one, and if I go into app configuration, nothing is there. Device configuration, I can see that kiosk browser settings has been deployed onto this device. And if I go to device compliance, okay, discovered apps, okay, nothing much there. Okay, and if I go to Windows and device enrollment, and then if I look at the deployment profiles, if I look at the test deployment profiles and assigned devices, I can see that it has been assigned to this device. It doesn't show whether it's succeedingly deployed or not, but okay, maybe from here we can see. Let's just see from here. No, we can't. Okay, all right, so let's just check the status of the device. Okay, it's still at app 1 of 2 pending, so it's taking an awful amount of time. So guys, I was thinking while this installation happens, it says that 1 of 2 is installed, so the second one is undergoing installation. So either the Office is installed, Office Suite, or the Power BI is installed. So we can actually go and check the deployment status and see how does it look. So let me just check Power BI. Okay, Power BI, and then see the device install status. Ah, fatal error. Okay, this is not good. Okay, I actually should have tested it. So over here you can see that the installation of Power BI actually failed on this device. That's why it's taking so much of time. And it failed at 10:58. That's why it's stuck over there. So I should have tested it whether it runs on that device or not. It's my bad. Let me just test the other one, that is the test suite. And if I go into device install status, okay, so it has been installed successfully on this device at 10:58, but the other one is not. So if I go to power again, the second one is not installed successfully, so it has failed over here. So in that case, I believe what is going to happen is it's going to keep on trying for 120 minutes, what I have specified over there, and then it is going to show that application installation failed, and then it is going to ask us to reboot the machine and start all over again. So it won't let us go to the home page unless and until that app deployment becomes a success. So as a workaround, what we can do is we can change the enrollment status page for that, and in the settings I can remove Power BI as a mandatory app. So even if Power BI is not installed, it's fine. As long as test suite is installed, the device will go ahead and the device will go ahead and go to the desktop and skip the enrollment status page. So this is something which I should have tried. If I reboot the machine now, I am afraid it might actually go through the out of the box experience all over again. So let's just see, let this happen in the background. But the fact that you were able to see it on one of the machines, right, that the kiosk was delivered, and the fact that both the devices are showing as enrolled device in the tenant under devices, and the fact that yeah, there you go, both the devices are showing over there, the naming convention is in match, and when we are going into the client apps and seeing the deployment of the Office suite, I'm able to see that it has been delivered successfully. So it pretty much says that if Power BI was not a mandatory app, then we would have been straight inside the device, and it would have shown all the certificates and the application, in this case MS Office, a part of the device itself. So I think that's all I needed to show you guys as of now from the demo end. So let me just go back to my presentation and see what else is missing in my deck. So getting the hardware hash is something we have done. Validation, yes, these are once we are inside, so this autopilot inside this Windows provisioning diagnostic provider autopilot, it's just going to show you that logs related to autopilot, and you can always go to device management provider and check the logs over there and check all the relevant logs that you might see related to enrollment. So all the logs related to enrollment would be there in the device. This is something which is there in addition. This is a log, and this autopilot location is something which you can check in the registry. So what else? Okay, and getting the hardware hash we already done. These are some useful links that you can refer to. I am not going to go through all of them, but you can just probably make a note of it, pause the video, and then go over there and see what it's talking about. It talks about what self-deploying profile is in detail, and what are the normal error messages that we might encounter and how to troubleshoot them, as well as how to get the hardware hash, and what is the new upcoming things in Autopilot. Okay. So as of now, these are the vendors that support Autopilot. These are the OEM support for Windows Autopilot. So as of now, we have Lenovo, Panasonic, HP, Microsoft Surface Book, and Fujitsu, Toshiba, and Dell. So all the major players out there, all the major hardware vendors out there have already committed to this. all the other ones, I'm sure that they will be onboarded very soon. And yes, as I said, this is something which you can try and play along with in your virtual lab as well. So yes, you can make use of it, and you can see how exactly things are working out. These links might be very useful to you to clear out the concepts and to walk through each and every step over there. So guys, the initial deployment actually didn't go through, the reason being that one of the applications, that is Power BI, was not applicable. So this is what I found. I mean, after the deployment went through, after that 120 minutes was gone, see over here it clearly says that device setup failed, and if I click on show details, it will actually show that the second application failed to install. And over here you can see that there are two options. First is collect logs. So if I click on collect logs, it would let me browse through the computer and then collect the relevant logs. And the other option is try again. So if I click on try again, it will try to install the application again. So what I did was, in this way I was actually not able to show you guys that how actually the device looks once the Autopilot profile has reached and once the device has gone out of the box experience. Therefore what I did was I created another machine and I deployed the Autopilot profile to this machine again. And now what I did was I just deployed one application, that was Office Suite, to this to the Autopilot group, and not Power BI. So I removed Power BI from that, and in the enrollment status page also I made sure that only, let me just show you guys, that will be easier. So if I go to Windows Enrollment now, and if I go to Enrollment Status Preview, this is the one that I have created now. And what I did was, over here I have not blocked the device, and even if I block the device in the selected app, what I'm going to do is, now I'm not going to select Power BI, I'm only going to select Test Suite. So what this will do is there will be no dependency on Power BI anymore. So I did that and I enrolled the device via Autopilot. So now if I go to devices and all devices, now I can see that the new device has been enrolled. This just now got enrolled. So if I RDP into the machine, this is the machine. It just got enrolled and via Autopilot profile. So the end user experience is going to be just when the application gets installed, he is going to come to this desktop screen. So now if I go into start and if I type Excel, so now you can see that Excel is pre-installed on this device. The user just came to the desktop screen. The user did not go to any app store or Play Store or Store for Business or anywhere to install any application, but just when he comes to the desktop, he is able to see Excel is pre-installed. If I check the same for Outlook, I will be able to see that Outlook is also installed in this device, and there you go, Outlook is also there. So all that needs to be done is Outlook needs to be configured. If you want, you can push an email profile as well to configure Outlook, or if you want, you can configure single sign-on. I mean, you can push other device configuration profiles as well. So I mean, the point I'm trying to make is until and unless Outlook and Excel was not installed, the device was at the limbo state in enrollment status page, and once Outlook and Excel was installed, I was able to come to the desktop, and now you can see that the applications are already there. So nothing much over here. Other than that, let me just show you guys the registry entry, how exactly the registry is going to look in the machine. So let me just open reg edit and let me do a yes, and the location where I want to go is HKLM software Microsoft, and then I have to scroll down and go to provisioning, and then diagnostic, and then there is a folder called Autopilot. So this folder is only going to be created in devices which are getting their profile via Autopilot, and it's going to contain all the information which has been specified in the Autopilot profile, which is governing this device's behavior. So over here we can see there is something called tenant ID, and then what else? There is something called Autopilot service correlation ID, There is the naming convention, cloud assigned device name. There's the naming convention which this device is going to follow. Hence the device was named appropriately. This is what I mentioned in my computer template. So if I go into device enrollment, Windows enrollment, and then deployment profiles, and if I go to this profile, go to the settings of this profile, this is what I selected over there. So this is the template that it is following. And then this is the cloud assigned tenant ID. This is my domain. If I go to the sub keys, it actually gives me information about other parameters. Like I'm not doing an hybrid Azure AD join, I'm doing an AD join only. That's what it's showing over there. Then it's going to show which of the OOBE settings I have decided to skip. So over here I have skipped the OEM registration, I have accepted the EULA, and it's as a standard user, I believe, it's as an administrator. So okay, so it's disallowing user as a local admin, therefore it is allowing user as an administrator. And what else? Okay, so nothing much to be seen here. I just wanted to show you guys the key wherein we will be able to see the registry related information. This is that place. And other than that, let me just show you guys the event viewer of this machine. There is a separate key that is created for the event viewer of the machine, wherein all the information will be stored. So for that you'll have to go to application and services logs. Let's just expand that, and then we'll have to go to Microsoft and then Windows, and then there should be something called provisioning for Autopilot. Let me just expand that real quick, and under where is it? Under provisioning, yeah, okay, provisioning diagnostic provider, and then Autopilot. So so in case there is something wrong with the Autopilot, this is wherein you can probably browse and see the event logs. Over here you can see that Autopilot manager is set to Autopilot profile is available, and it is showing us that Autopilot's get policy string by name succeeded. And so you can go through all the logs over here. Right now this is actually a working log, so we won't be able to see much information other than the fact that this device actually reached out to the Autopilot service and made sure that the internet was working, fetched the Autopilot profile, and then the profile took effect over here. And that is when the out-of-the-box experience of the device was customized. So yeah, that's pretty much it from the device, and that is how the user is going to see if it fails. In that case, it is let's just say you specified 10 applications, and you selected all those 10 applications in the enrollment status page. So if either or any of those applications fail, then it is going to say as failed, and it won't let you go through. That's why I removed one of the applications, just selected the Microsoft Suite, and in that case, once the enrollment was done, once I was at the desktop, out of the box itself, I was able to see Excel and Outlook installed in the machine, and user did not have to install it from any other place. So guys, that's pretty much it. I mean, that's how you would deploy a kiosk mode. That's how you deploy a normal Autopilot profile, may that be user driven or may that be self-provisioning. And yeah, and if you have to test it on a virtual machine, that's how you will be exactly testing it. So this is what we established on this session. We found out what Autopilot is, what it is not, the prerequisites, how we can do it. We saw how we can do it from the Intune portal, and we can also do it from the Store for Business. We saw the flow, we saw what can go wrong, as well as the error codes. We saw the normal life cycle and where Autopilot fits in that. We saw the new interesting features of Autopilot, and we saw them in demo as well, barring the self-deployment profile. We saw everything else in the demo. We saw all the configuration that was needed to be done on the portal end. We know now the logs and the registry that needs to be taken care of and for validation. So that's pretty much it, guys. Go ahead, make your own lab and play with Windows Autopilot. I believe it's the next big thing, because I'm quite sure that down the line OSD deployment would not be needed anymore, and we are reaching to a position wherein all that would be needed is bare metal hardware, on top of that the OS, and then the out-of-the-box customization. So I know, guys, that in this case we never deployed any patches to the device, but what you can do is, like I deployed a Windows configuration profile, what you can do is you can deploy a Windows update ring profile as well. So that would mean that the device is going to get all the updates as well as the configuration profile. If needed, you can deploy PKCS and NDES certificates as well. So it will make sure that all the certificates are there, the updates are there, the applications are there, the compliance policy is there, the configuration is there, everything is there on the device by the time the user reaches to the device. So no longer, and this is ideally something which we would put in a golden image, right? So it is, I mean, bypassing the need of using a golden image, preparing an image, taking it on a pen drive and booting the machine up with that image and then deploying the device to the end user. So this is pretty much wherein Autopilot fits into the picture. Okay, so that's it, guys. That's it from my end on this video. I hope this has been informative for you, and I would like to thank you for viewing. This is your friend Saurabh Sarkar signing off.